Hey everybody, Richard here for InvisaGig, and today we're going to go over the software version 1.0.14. This is just going to be an overview video, so we're just going to run through the menu itself in its entirety and highlight some of the features, highlight what's new, and potentially even just obviously the old stuff. Just give you a brief, broad, probably won't be too brief, but a broad overview of the latest software release, 1.0.14. So if we jump right in, we have our InvisaGig already on, and it's got one SIM card in the first SIM slot. We're going to go ahead and log into the base IP 192.168.225. This is how you access the web UI of the InvisaGig. The InvisaGig is very simple. It has a what looks like command line, but it's not. It's actually a just text-only graphical interface. It has you can input letters and characters. You can't click around on anything. We don't want you going anywhere you don't need to go. It's just real straightforward. We have the ability to log in right away, or you can look at modem info. It won't show you your IMEI, it won't show you your SIM card information. Anything that is private, it's not going to show you that. Live signal is the same whether you're logged in or not. It's going to show you your bands that you're currently using. I'm not going to go over those. I'm going to go right into login. Default password is on your unit label. We did change that for version 1.0.14, so if you have an InvisaGig already and you've updated from 1.0.12 to 1.0.14 and then factory reset after updating, you're gonna need to know that new password. And all we did was we changed the last character of the default password from a $ to an exclamation point. So that's all we did. The new factory default password ends in a exclamation point, not a $. That's it. Okay, so we can change that with number one. That's always been there. Modem info. We've actually updated this, so it's a lot more streamlined. It's got more information, but more compact and easier to read. This is a brand new factory reset unit, so I'm going to show you what it looks like as a factory reset unit, what it shows in detail here. Some of my information will be blurred for privacy, but your IP information is now on a single line. It's got the bridge MAC address as well, obviously the modem status. We now have active SIM 1 and active SIM 2. You will see this if you just have a single SIM version, but yours will just never say SIM 2. Shows the ICC ID and phone number once connected. The carrier profile, that's what we have chosen at configuration. This is a brand new factory reset unit, so you're not going to see a carrier profile there. It'll just say auto select, or if you've set it that way, also. APN, what is currently being used, and the protocol stack, IPv4 v6. Carrier, this is what it has registered on the network. So aside from your carrier profile, once it connects, what carrier is it reading that it is connected to? That's T-Mobile in my case. And the primary cell, or PCC, mine for the NR5G standalone on T-Mobile, I'm on band 25. The network mode by default is LTE and NR5G, non-standalone and standalone enabled, and all the bands are enabled, what the current time is. A note on the current time, as always, if you're new, it's new information. If you're not new, it's a reminder. The time on the InvisaGig is UTC time. It is not localized to your time zone. It is UTC no matter what. It's not changeable. Just make note that it's UTC time when you're looking at it. So it's not, what is that, 10:34 p.m. where I live right now. It is Friday, September 26th, but it is not 10:24 p.m. It's closer to 5:34 p.m. So I'm off by about 7 hours. 2025, and then the uptime. This unit was turned on here recently for this video, so it's only been on for about 10 minutes. Temperature 43 degrees Celsius, and then your current IMEI, this is your stock IMEI here on mine, and factory serial number. All right, hit enter to continue to go back to your menu. Live signal, this is the same as it was before, very informative, truly live. Updates shows you active bands versus inactive, the yellow and green at the bottom, and your signal power, signal quality, signal to noise ratio, and what the primary band is as well. And of course your modem temperature. It's pretty important to watch when you're doing live. Note, As usual, if you're doing speed tests and you want to check to see what your speeds are, you really don't want to be running this live signal page, as it uses resources while it's running because it's constantly querying the modem for updated data. Hit X to exit and then hit enter. We did that as a two-stage part because we want you to be able to stop the live signal without leaving the live signal. That way you can pause it where you're watching it and use that information for something else without exiting out of the screen. Then if you hit enter, it will exit back to the menu. Connection configuration, submenu, takes you to a bunch of different settings. Network mode, that's going to be where you can set it to LTE only or LTE plus 5G, non-standalone, and you can also enable or disable standalone or just make it standalone 5G only. Local tower search, this is our tower search feature. Some people call it tower locking, where it will scan whatever bands it finds on all carriers on any cell tower it can see, and then it lists it out in an easy to read format. We have a whole video on how to do the tower locking feature. It's really good. Check it out. User profiles. This is where whenever you make your configurations on your unit, you set the bands, you set the mode, you set the you set the Watchdog and all the different settings that you put in there. You can save that configuration so that it can be applied when it swaps SIM slots if you have a dual SIM version, or you can simply just use it to change all the settings at once using a user profile that you saved for whenever you switch your SIM cards from T-Mobile to AT&T to Verizon and so forth. You can just swap the SIM card, load a new user profile that you saved previously. You can also export those and import them. And that way you don't have to reconfigure every time you change SIM cards or SIM slots. And that does save everything that you've set. If you export those files, there's privacy information that does not get exported. But if you don't export it and it stays on the unit that you created it on, all settings that you have changed for making a SIM card work will save on that profile, so that when you change SIMs or change SIM slots, all of the settings necessary for that SIM card also carry over. Okay. Carrier profiles, this is where you would just configure your unit to use AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, Telecom, there's a bunch of them in there. So that's where actually we'll show it. So on an unlocked unit, you'll see all these carriers. We also have a generic one for just manually entering your own APN. There's some private APNs out there, or maybe there's an APN that we don't have yet loaded up. All of these are here because one of our customers somewhere requested it and we added it. So pretty much every single telecom or T-Mobile plan is going to be in here that we've had access to the information or have been requested to add. And that goes for all of the carriers that we've got so far, including some over in Canada and around the world like Telecom Germany. There's also the auto select. If you've changed it to one or the other, you can put it back on auto select without factory resetting the whole unit. And again, the generic is so that you can manually enter in your own APN, or if you don't want to go through one of the carrier profiles, you can do the manual one, and that sets a generic modem profile that you apply the APN how you like. Okay. B for back. Local IP and multi-modem setup. So all this really is fancy for change the IP of the InvisaGig. So you can select Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4, 5, and 6, and all that does is it changes the IP address that you use to access your InvisaGig. And the point of this, of course, is so that you can have more than one InvisaGig on one router system. So if you have a multi-WAN, bonded, or failover, or load balance system, every single InvisaGig that you have on there can't have the same IP. So with just our preset settings, you could set up to 6 different IP addresses. But there's also a hidden feature in here. If you choose one of them, like the stock IP, which is the first one, that doesn't change anything, but it'll ask you if you want to enable bridge mode. Bridge mode IP pass-through is enabled by default. It's already there, and it works on an auto setup. So you connect a router to your InvisaGig, power everything up. The InvisaGig basically asks the ARP, hey, what's the MAC address of the port I'm connected to? It'll respond, and then that's the MAC address that the InvisaGig will pass everything through to, as though the InvisaGig is now invisible on through, okay? So that's on automatically. If you wanted to turn that off, you would do that here. You would just say, no, I don't want IP pass-through. Or if you wanted to not let the InvisaGig ask for the MAC address, but you actually wanted to assign it, maybe you're running a special setup where you are going through a switch or some VLANs or something, and you just want to tell the InvisaGig, use this MAC address for IP pass-through, here is where you would set that MAC address, okay? So copy paste it, make sure it's correct, because it's always going to try to pass through, whenever it's finally online, pass through the IP stuff to that MAC address. I'm not going to do that on mine. I do want IP pass-through. I'm going to say do it automatically, and then it'll say, based on your selections, we're going to do all this fun stuff. Now, what if you wanted to put in your own IP? We have information on how you could do that, like 10.0.0.1. You can enter it as long as it's a private IP range like the ones mentioned in the example at the top of the page. So you don't have to use our preset ones. I recommend that if you don't truly know what you're doing and you have a reason why you would do this on an internet source, I otherwise recommend don't touch this. You don't need to. You could do the thing where it turns on or off the IP pass-through. That is actually very functional for most people that want to change the way it interacts with their router. But changing the IP address is completely unnecessary, and it, in most cases, ends up getting people confused and they forget what the IP is, or they made it the same IP as their router network, which is, you're not supposed to do that on two different sides of the firewall zones and so forth. So just, if you don't know what you're doing, leave it alone. You may want to turn off IP pass-through through this method though. All right, we're going to exit that. Go back to connection configuration. And you may notice everything that I've been doing in this menu is just entering a number and then hitting enter. You can do this on mobile, you can do it on your desktop, however you need. It doesn't matter what browser, you don't need a special browser, you don't need special settings, you don't need special files. When we first started a long time ago, it was a little bit more complex to just get started. That is no longer true. It hasn't been true for a long time. Those videos or information out there is outdated. You just need a common browser. I do find that Edge has weird issues, but I don't like Edge anyway, so I guess I'm biased. I like most of the Chrome-based browsers, so they usually tend to work. I use Chrome or Brave or whatever. Okay, so Tailscale. Tailscale is an integration feature for remote access. It's a VPN type setup. It doesn't use VPN servers and so forth like a normal WireGuard or OpenVPN VPN. We've incorporated that because it's free and it's simple to set up. So there's nothing to pay for, just like everything with InvisaGig. You buy it once, you don't pay us ever again. And everything that we incorporate, there's a way to do it for free. And Tailscale is just one of those cool things where if I want to access my unit that's somewhere else, I can do that. So it's really cool where you can access your InvisaGig remotely. You can also use it to set up certain features that we have with InvisaGig. Overall, a really cool way to do different things on here. All right. Next, enable bands. This is where you would select or change or disable the bands that are actively capable of being used by the InvisaGig. Currently, they're all enabled, and this is the list. So it shows you everything up top here that you have currently enabled. Then if you wanted to change them, say you select LTE, and then what it does is it pre-populates what's current. But if you look at the very top, now it says available. So that's actually the full default list for your InvisaGig. So if you want, you can copy and paste it. So let's say we'll copy this so that we have the full list. I'll right click, copy. Okay. So let's say for whatever reason, I accidentally deleted the whole thing and I don't want to go back and come back in, which you can. If you hit B, it'll go back. So I just right click, hit paste, and it puts it all back, which means you can also do this from a notepad or anything else. But if you didn't want to do that, you could just simply scroll over with arrow keys. On mobile, you can tap in different places. I don't like the way mobile works, so I would just delete everything and then re-enter in. But mobiles can be a little more tricky for us. But we'll delete 71 so that it can no longer use LTE band 71, and then just hit enter. Once it does that, it says we've done it. You don't have to restart the unit. You don't have to reboot anything. It's instant. So it will take it away immediately. And you'll notice here at the top, 71 is now gone. Okay. So to put it back, we put :71. And all we need is a colon in between each number so that it can read them properly. 71 is back. And as it checks, there it is. All right, we can do the same thing for NSA bands and separately standalone bands, non-standalone, standalone. You can turn off non-standalone 71, but leave on standalone 71. So you have a granular control over which bands the modem is allowed to use. The cell tower will assign to you the bands. We don't have a lot of control over that, a little bit, but not a lot. But if you turn it off on your modem, the cell tower can't give it to you. It just isn't possible. So we can control that. All right, and we can also do number 4 here to reset them all to default. Head back. And then SIM selection, if you have a single SIM InvisaGig, this is not here, obviously, because you don't have multiple SIMs. But if you do have multiple SIMs, the SIM selection menu will be here. It's going to check for whatever you've set up. This is a fully factory reset unit, so the automatic failover feature is not there in a way that's useful because we have to create user profiles first, and it'll tell you that. So not really anything we can do at this time, but we can, if we wanted to, we can select manual failover. This whole SIM selection feature will be a whole separate video. We'll go into full detail about that. Manual failover, it'll ask you, hey, we're on SIM 1. Do you want to switch to SIM 2? You say, sure, I'd love to. And then it's going to ask you, well, how do you want to apply settings to that new SIM card? So the SIM 2 profile can either be a user profile that you've had previously. I have none saved because it's a fresh unit. Or you can do a carrier profile. Back to this menu, say T-Mobile, home internet, I'm sorry, business internet, static IP, nope, no static IP. Do you want to do this? Are you sure? So forth. I'm going to say no. I'm going to go back. Or I can say no profile, just let it toggle and stay on auto. So we can do that as well, option number 3. I don't want to do any of these, so we're going to go back. Again, all of these features, the automatic failover has some really cool features that we've never seen on other devices that we wanted to implement. Some, of course, we have, but we've got failover, we've got a timed fail back, we've got scheduled failover, failback, so Sunday through Saturday, all through the week, you can have it go to SIM 2 for a period of time and then back to SIM 1. Every single day you can have it set to swap back and forth, regardless of whether or not the connection is failed. They could be perfectly fine, but maybe you've got on Monday through Friday, it works better in the afternoon on SIM 2 than it does on SIM 1. So from, let's say, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., you want it on SIM 2. You can schedule that and it'll do it for you automatically. And every time it swaps, it applies the right settings profile for each SIM slot. And it's really quick. It is really quick. There's also data failover. So if you hit an amount of data that you choose, let's say you hit a 500 gigabytes on SIM 1, it will then stay on SIM 2. Now it will fail back over to SIM 1 if you lose connection on SIM 2, but then immediately, as quickly as possible, it'll fail back because of data. So actually, it may even ignore the fail. But if you have a data limit, this is a good way to keep that SIM 1 only, keep that SIM from going over its data limit. It'll push it over to SIM 2, and it will ignore schedules and everything so that you don't keep going back. It'll also ignore the failback. We have a timed failback, so if it fails over to SIM 2 and you say, hey, after an hour, I want it to go back, it can do that. So we've got data limit failover, we've got scheduled failover, we've got standard connection failover, and we've got scheduled failback, and we've got timed failback. All really cool setups, and the logic all ties them together so they don't counteract with each other. They stay out of each other's way. Pretty cool. All right, so I have a whole video on that, and we're done with the connection configuration. So we'll exit from here, and we've got InvisaGig update check. That number 5 will show up green if you've booted freshly up, and when it boots, it'll freshly check for an update. And if it has one, that'll be green. But you don't have to update it. It just checks to see if it's there, one time per boot. And you don't even have to check when you go into the menu. It still wants to say, do you want to check? I'll say, yeah. And it'll check. Currently, we've got 1014. We don't have a new version. If it did find a new version, it would say, hey, I did find this version. Would you like to update? So again, one last check, only one last one, before you can say, no, I don't want to update. Once you update, you can't go back, but you can choose if and when you want to go over. So if you feel like some people, I tend to be this way, If you don't want to be one of the first people to do the update, which we do beta and alpha test, but if you don't want to be one of the first, you can ignore it for a while. Don't update it. Don't if it ain't broke. So we can ignore that. All right, Watchdog and scheduled restart. This is a feature that's been around. We haven't really updated this other than improving the Watchdog. So connection Watchdog will check to see if it's online. And if it's not, it'll take actions in order to get it back online. And there's also three different options for this, sorry. Every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes. This is how often it checks your connection. Every 5 minutes can be a bit aggressive. So I tend to like every 15 to 30 minutes for anybody who has a connection that tends to be a little bit higher ping, a little bit lower signal strength. Every 5 minutes may be too aggressive. So wheel it back to 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Now, the Watchdog, if you have dual SIM slots for failover, the Watchdog has to be active so that it knows if it's connected or not. So that'll automatically turn on. It'll also turn on if you have tower locking. Sometimes if you have tower locking and that tower cell is no longer available, we have to be able to recover in a way because it wants to keep locking to that one and not any other. So the Watchdog will be active for different reasons. 5 is the default for those features. But again, if you have kind of connectivity issues that they don't really bother you, but for whatever reason the unit keeps rebooting itself because it's on that 5 minutes, then you may want to wheel that back. What's cool is though, after it does any actions, you can look at the log here on number 3, and it'll tell you what it's been doing. So if you see a lot of reboot actions in there, then you'll be able to say like, hey, maybe I need to wheel this back. Or you can see, hey, why did it go over to this M1 again? It'll tell you, well, because we had failback or because the connection failed or anything like that. And this is where that'll be. This is your connection logging for that. All right. We can also change the interval at any time. Schedule restart. This one is just exactly what it says. We can schedule weekly, daily, or hourly if you just want the thing to reboot. Doesn't do anything extra, doesn't change any settings or anything like that. It'll just restart itself. So that can be helpful for keeping your connection fresh. Do it 3 a.m. every night, something like that. I have my father-in-law's unit set up to do 3 a.m. every night, and it works really well. All right. Visual accessibility, this has not changed. We have a dark mode and we have a large text mode. Large text mode just increases the text that you see on my screen right now, and it also spaces out a little better. That way you don't have to zoom your screen in or anything else when you're just looking at this menu. Visual accessibility. Now Setup Wizard. Setup Wizard is the first thing you want to do when you're brand new to it. You hit 9 and then it'll say these are the things you need to do, but you can also exit or go back. And then it starts asking you questions. Dark mode enables high contrast. Do you want to do this? I'm going to say no. Large text, I'm going to say no. Would you like to change the password? Of course you would. That's very important for your security. You can say no. Which carrier? You're setting up for the first time and you've got T-Mobile and you've got one of these plans here like number 4 or number 3, and select that. And then let's go with, I like my business internet. Let's go with number 3. Static IP address. Maybe you have the static IP on your, it's a $3 add-on. It's really inexpensive. So yeah, I got a static. And then we'll say, okay, that's the one? T-Mobile Business? Yes. There's also the Watchdog that we spoke of. Do you want to enable it? Sure, let's do every 5 minutes. Schedule reboots. Yeah, I'd love to do schedule reboots. Let's do it daily at, I'm going to say 3 a.m. 10 UTC is 3 a.m. for me. InvisaGig can save your Setup Wizard selection to a user profile. So it asks you, hey, all these things that you've been doing, do you want to save it to a user profile? I say, heck yeah, I want to do a user profile. And what do we want to name this profile? T-Mo-Biz 1. All right, T-Mo-Biz 1, are you sure? Yep, sure am. And then it's going to go, all right, these are all the things that you've set. Are you ready to apply, save this, and reboot? And you can say yes, no, whatever you want to do. So the first time you set up, boom, right there. You don't have to go through any of that other stuff I talked about. You jump straight to the wizard, answer the questions, and you're done. If there's any other settings that need to be done, there may be one special setting. So let's say, I want to leave my setup wizard, yeah. So if you wanted to say, make sure that your IMEI is correct on your unit, you would follow a prompt after entering this on your screen, and that's just to make sure that you've got it all correct. If you need to know about that, you can ask, but it's there. There's also another one that is hidden, and you can do that as well if you like. It's up to you. Data usage. This one is new with 1014, and this one says, would you like to enable first? Of course. Yes, I would love to. Now, I've got a dual SIM unit. If you don't have a dual SIM unit, it's not going to ask you this question, but for SIM 1, it's asking me, when is my billing date? So let's say I have T-Mobile home internet and my billing cycle turns over on the 12th. So I could say 12th, or I could say 13th if I want it to be like the very next day. But let's say on the 12th, I just say, well, my billing cycle's on the 12th. That's when my data resets. This is especially important if you have a limited data plan, one of the non-unlimited plans. Boom, I'm saying, hey, I want to track this. And on the 12th, that's when my data resets. So that's when I want to stop tracking it for that month, start tracking it for the next month, okay? And then SIM 2, same thing. I've got, let's say I've got AT&T hotspot in SIM 2, and that one I started billing on the, let's call it the 27th. And then it says data usage statistics will now be collected once every minute. And obviously wait at least a minute before you do anything with that. Hit enter, and now we're back here. Now, the cool thing is, now that you've done that, you can go to your modem info screen, let it load, and there's going to be a bunch more information here now that we've turned that on. Not a bunch, but there's more information here. If you look up at the very top, I haven't waited long enough or used any data, but now it shows me my data use. So we've got a bit more information on here. All right. And if we wanted to just jump straight to the data menu, we see here even more information for the data use. So we have the downloaded, the uploaded, and total data use on SIM 1 and SIM 2 for that billing period. All right, pretty neat, but it goes even deeper. Obviously, 1, we can reset it. 2, we can turn it all the way off, or we could say, actually I'll jump to 4. So change billing date. I didn't mean to enter in the 12th, I meant to enter in the 13th. Just go into 4 and SIM 1, and then we're going to say the 13th. And now, are we sure? Yes. And then we go back to realign that usage data, just in case that overlaps in a way. That way we can make sure that your monthly report is exact and it doesn't lose any data. You see now it's already starting to report some. It doesn't lose data, it just shifts what the reports line up for. Which, number 3, historical data. Let's go to SIM 1. And we have billing period 9 for September. We're in September. And how much data you've used. And we can even go into the month of September and see each day's use. Now, again, this is a freshly factory reset unit, so I'm not going to have a lot of historical data on here, but it will give it to you. And then, even cooler, we can hit E instead of a number, and it will actually export a CSV file. Click on it. And we're going to say, I want to save this. And then it's going to save it here. Now let's open it. And you get a file that has your usage all the way down day by day by day. Again, factory reset units, so not a ton of cool data on this one, but you can actually export your usage by day, both upload and download and total, and then cumulative day by day by day. Pretty neat. Very useful information there. And we can look at it, we can export it, we can back it up, whatever we want to do. Now we can't export and import this data. Once you clear it, it's gone. So make sure you save it if you want to keep that information. And then of course we've got 11 factory defaults, that resets everything to factory, 12 reboot. If there's anything that you've changed on here settings-wise, maybe you've done the repair or TTL or some other settings and it didn't reboot for you, then that's where you would do it and it would take effect. If you have issues loading, maybe the data tracking showing something weird, probably just needs to be a reboot. And not very often that happens. I tend to break things pretty easily, so I've learned that. But there is some more information that's actually really cool. We can go to the same IP 192.168.225.1/telemetry/info.json. Okay, so this is a JSON file that you can see every minute, an updated snapshot of your modem. So what's happened in the last minute? So this one has been on NR5G band 41. Here is the band information. It's a standalone cell. Here's all the cell information. If it's on LTE or a non-standalone, it'll show that stuff. It'll show your SIM data usage metrics. It'll show when everything started. It'll show your carrier, your uptime, your temperature, your IPs. It shows a lot of information on this, and it updates every single minute. So let's see here. We've got band 41. Let's try to make it aggregate. We'll go to the speed test. I don't get good speeds here, but let's see if we can. See if we can get more bands in there. All right, so we got 25 and 41. Cool. Let's see if we can get this to update to say that it's using, oh, it already is. Okay, sorry. There's 25 and 41. So that's pretty neat. And if we switch it to the LTE, then we can see that as well. And then now, that's pretty much it for the entirety of the 1014 update. But I'll give you a little sneak peek at why I think this is really cool and useful when it comes to your connection. So if you want to track your connection, the data on your connection, and do it for free, you can by simply pulling this JSON file as often as you like. Really don't need to do it more than once every minute because it only updates once every minute. But you can load it into a visualization dashboard like Grafana. So this is on a server on a different unit, and that different unit has been online on and off, been factory reset, but it's always had the same IP that I use over Tailscale, so I do it remotely. I've got a cloud server and I've also got a local server. And you can do this locally to 192.168.225.1, or you can do this remotely over Tailscale, all for free, and you can make your own dashboards to show this kind of data. So on mine, I made all these dashboards, and I'm actually going to make a tutorial and then you can give away a Docker container and the JSON for this particular unit. I can completely duplicate this by exporting a JSON for this, and then I'm going to give that away for free. So you can collect data on your unit really simply. You don't have to be techie. I don't know anything about Docker containers, but yet I was still able to do it. It's really cool. But all it does is it takes that JSON file, throws it into a database. I've got it pretty holistically saving not only all the fields, but also saves a raw version of the JSON file currently from the telemetry data, this here. And then utilizing simple database queries, we can take that data and feed it into here. So you'll notice I was on T-Mobile here. This is a different unit that is not the same one, and it's on AT&T right now, and it's on LTE only. So you'll see here that it's on 2 for the primary carrier, 14, 66, 66. So these stats are all right now, or at least within the last minute. Here's my data usage. This unit had been reset pretty recently, so it's only got a little bit of data usage, but SIM 1 and SIM 2 totals up and down megabytes. And then the carriers, you can see this is set up to be the last hour. Okay, so I can nail down and just I can actually be smaller than that if I want. I can select and look at just this time frame right here that I just selected and see exactly nailed down what's been going on in my unit. The carriers, my data usage, my signal quality, my signal strength, device temperature, primary bands, what aggregation bands have been going on. So you'll see the key down here. Green is aggregate 1. Yellow's aggregate 2, blue's aggregate 3, and you can just, at any point in time, you can put your mouse over it and see that that's band 2. There's band 14, and then this is band 66. This is the primary band, look at that, 66. Device uptime, this is from reboots. It'll start slowly grow, and then it'll drop off because of a reboot, stuff like that. But check this out. I can go back let's say 30 days, 90 days, however long you've saved data. I've actually got this for a couple of months. So I can see at any general point in time what my unit has been doing over time. So this is still the current status right here, which, by the way, I can edit this and move these around however I want. Whereas the graphs are over time. This is a data over time. This is a graph over time. So you can see here where it's switched SIM slots to different carriers. And then at the same time, you can compare that to what the signal strengths were on standalone, non-standalone, or LTE. You can see what the signal quality was. You can see what the device temperature was over time, data usage. All of this, I'm nerding out, going way too long into this, but all of this we'll put it into a separate video. You can do this for free. It's available right now. It's actually been available since 1012. We updated the format of that JSON file to include the data usage, so you can track your per SIM data usage over time as well. Remember, if you reset the data usage, it will change what's been saved here, but you'll know on your graphing, what's been changed. So you'll notice on my data usage here, it started off way up here and then dropped down and then built up and then dropped down and built up, dropped down. So this is every time I factory reset it. So I can tell you that I factory reset this unit. If I nail way down, I reset it on 9/6/2025 at 11 a.m. Right? And I've actually used these graphs to find out what happened. It disconnected from my router, or the internet connection disconnected from my router, and I can nail down and see like, oh, it switched from maybe non-standalone to standalone. In this particular case is LTE, a non-standalone signal. But maybe I could see when it jumped bands, or maybe it went from standalone to non-standalone. Oh, okay. When it does that, I'm on bridge mode, and that makes it reset the IP address. So very, very useful data that you can track for free over time. All you need is, in this case, I set it up on a Linux device. I've done it on a Raspberry Pi. This one actually is sitting on a Raspberry Pi that's in the other room behind me. And I have some that are also set up on a cloud server that costs me like $6 a month on DigitalOcean. So all data that you can use on the version 1014, you can access it remotely for free. You use it for free, buy it once, good forever. We'll always support it. We now have the dual SIM version 1.2 hardware. There's the legacy version 1.0 hardware. You get the same firmware, you get the same support, the same lifetime support for your device. Version 1014 is not just for dual SIM InvisaGigs. It is for everybody, and aside from the actual dual SIM functions, it's the same for everybody, including the cool telemetry data that you can play with for free. This has been Richard with InvisaGig going over 1014. If you have any questions, as always, reach out. We always want to make sure that your connection is super simple and crazy fast.